Hi everyone, my name is Gowrikrishna Kumar, Teaching Assistant, Department of English, Kristu Jayanti College. Today we are going to discuss about the poem Freedom. So first let's talk about the author, Jayanta Mahapatra. He was born on 22nd October 1928. He's a major Indian English poet. He's the first Indian poet that won the Sahitya Academy Prize for English Poetry. He is a writer of famous poems such as Indian Summer and Hunger, and they are regarded as the classics in modern Indian English laureate. His poetic words are stable, lucid, and simultaneously courageous, predatory, and violent. Inertia, helplessness, dormancy are the repeated images defining the mood of his poem. Now let's go through the first to third stanzas. The poem begins with the words, "At times as I watch," meaning that whenever the poet watches his country, which is free now from the clutches of British, it seems to the poet as if her, which means the country's body, floats down somewhere on the river. Second stanza talks about, having seen that, the poet feels he is left alone like a half disembodied bamboo whose lower part has sunk into the river because of its own weight. In this stanza, I think the poet assumes himself to be the country, himself which is dying because of its own people are destroying it. The third stanza talks about, now the widows and the dying men pray to get freedom from life. The line resonates with the pain of poor who are abandoned or sent to the old age homes because or near a river by the children to die in their final stage. Having no hope left, they keep praying to the God with a dedication to take out of their souls from their body. Moving on to the next stanzas, 4, 5, and 6. Having talked about the condition of old people living in India, the poet comes to the young generation. According to him, children scream with their desire for freedom to transform the world without even laying hands on it. Then the poet talks about his desire to wander back to either of them, which means the young generation and the elder generation, that he could help them and thus may not lose face or, in simple words, feel embarrassed while celebrating freedom. Moving on to the sixth stanza, he talks about his economic conditions and slavery to the work for earning refrains from him meeting the women and her child, that remote village in the hills, who never had even a little rice for their one daily meal. These lines are quite symbolic as they refer to the generations that are economically poor and their condition has not improved since the independence of India. So here arises a question of how can we completely celebrate freedom? Moving on to the next stanza, 7 and 8, which talks about the worst economic and social conditions have made the people ignorant of uncaught, bloodied light of sunset and cling to the tall white columns of Parliament House. These lines show the poet's concern over the politics of India. Even after independence, our country was supposed to be of the people, by the people, and for the people. However, even after 50 years, people don't know what is going on in the Parliament. The politicians are ruling the country like kings, using the resources of their own luxury. Having talked about the country, people, and politicians, the poet then discusses about the religious condition in the country, which is absolutely pathetic. According to him, religious institutions are no better than politics. Every day, a new temple is being built, where he quotes that God hides in the dark like an alien, and the priest is the one who only knows freedom. These line exposes the reality of our religious places. The priests who are supposed to be the servants of God are the ones who enjoy the freedom of all kind of luxury. Moving on to the last two stanzas, 9 and 10. As there is literally no freedom, the poet keeps looking for the light shadows, which is an oxymoron. That is a little hope of freedom, which is the freedom of body from all social and economic hurdles. This hope is an excuse to satisfy his own heart. After dying, the ashes float in the river, which is a practice of Hindu culture and religion. These ashes and remains of the humans are only ones that enjoy the freedom of silent rocks, the freedom of call which is deep inside the earth, and the freedom of beds of rivers and stream, on which river sleeping gods is as the word that is referred by the poet, which is flowing. The last line of the poem, which is a very bit confusing but open-ended part of the poem, the poet does not want to take away the freedom of any people whose ashes are roaming freely. Hence, he don't even want to touch or wear them on his forehead, or else they will become also a slave, just like the poet. So this is a very controversial, open-ended line or a conclusion for the poem. Now, moving on to the conclusion of the poem, Freedom, in which the poet's view of this hollowness of the freedom, the concept of freedom of his own nation is presented. He is delusioned with his nation's freedom. Everybody, young and old, wants to have freedom. Old widows and dying men desire to have freedom, bowing time to time in the obstinate prayer to God. In his figurative blindness, he desired to be left only alone, and his heart cries for more freedom. The bloodied light, the reference of the bloodied light, goes entrust in the Parliament House, as politicians are very indifferent. Neither politicians nor heavenly power can diminish human situation. The barb of expedition is towards the superficial presence of God, devoid of any practical aids. That's the conclusion of the poem, and thank you so much for listening.